Welcome to Heart Echo, where every silent heart finally finds its voice. Have you ever loved someone so deeply, so completely, that the words just couldn't form? Not in messages, not in promises, but in the quiet, unspoken language of the soul? This is a story about that kind of love, the kind that lives in the spaces between words. She loved him. It wasn't a grand declaration shouted from the rooftops. It was in the way her eyes would find him in a crowded room, the way a small smile would play on her lips when he wasn't looking. It was in the quiet way she looked at him, as if he was the only safe harbor in a world that never stopped hurting her. To her, he wasn't just a person, he was a sanctuary. A place where the noise of her own anxieties and fears faded into a gentle hum. When he was near, the world felt a little less chaotic, a little more kind. He never noticed. Or perhaps it's more accurate to say he never tried to. He was so caught up in the melody of his own life, the rhythm of his own ambitions, that he was deaf to the silent symphony she was composing just for him. He saw her, yes, but he didn't truly see her. He saw the friend, the listener, the constant presence. He didn't see the love that was blooming in the shadows, waiting for just a sliver of sunlight. Every day was a beautiful, heartbreaking ritual. She would sit with him, a faithful companion on their favorite bench, under the sprawling branches of an old oak tree. She would listen, truly listen, as he spoke of his dreams, his frustrations, his fleeting crushes. She became the keeper of his stories, the guardian of his secrets. She'd laugh at his jokes, even the ones that weren't funny, just to see the corners of his eyes crinkle with joy. And all the while, she was hiding a storm inside her own chest. A tremor that started in her heart and threatened to shake her entire being every time he was near. It was the trembling of unspoken words, of a love so profound it was almost painful. He talked about his dreams, painting vivid pictures of a future filled with adventure and success. He spoke of faraway lands he wanted to visit, of a career he wanted to build, of a life he wanted to lead. And she just listened, her own dreams shrinking until they were small enough to fit into the palm of her hand. She never told him that he was her only dream. Her past, her present, her future, it all converged on him. He was the destination she yearned for, the home her heart was searching for. But how do you tell someone they are your world when they are busy charting their own course across the universe? So, she waited. Patience became her closest friend and her cruelest enemy. She waited with the kind of hope that is both beautiful and devastating. Maybe one day he would understand. Maybe one day the fog would clear from his eyes and he would see the love that had been there all along, patient and unwavering. Maybe he would look back at all those shared moments, the laughter, the silences, and finally feel the echo of what she felt. Maybe he would finally hear the silence she carried for him, a silence that was louder and more profound than any love song ever written. She held on to this maybe like a lifeline, believing that love, even silent love, had to be strong enough to be heard eventually. But life, as we know, isn't always kind to those who love quietly. It doesn't always reward the patient heart. Sometimes the quietest loves are the ones that are most easily overlooked, like a beautiful rare flower blooming in a forgotten alley. The world is a loud place, and it often favors the bold, the declared, the obvious. Her silent devotion, her gentle presence, was like a soft whisper in a hurricane of noise, and it was getting lost. Then one day, she stopped coming. The bench under the old oak tree was empty. The familiar warmth of her presence was gone. There were no calls to explain her absence, no texts with a hurried excuse, no tearful goodbyes. There was just silence. An abrupt, deafening silence that replaced the gentle, loving one she had carried for so long. It was as if a chapter had been ripped from the book of his life, leaving a jagged edge in an unreadable story. At first he didn't really care. Life went on. He was busy, his days filled with the very dreams he had so often described to her. He barely registered the empty space beside him. A day passed, then a week, then he noticed. He'd have a story to tell and would turn to share it, only to find an empty space. He'd hear a joke and instinctively listen for her soft laugh, but only the wind answered. The absence wasn't just physical. It was an emptiness that started to creep into the corners of his days. Then he missed her. He missed the way she listened, making him feel like the most interesting person in the world. He missed her quiet support, the unspoken encouragement in her eyes. He missed the comfortable silence they could share, a silence that was never awkward, only peaceful. He started to realize that her presence wasn't just a habit. It was an integral part of his happiness. Then, he needed her. A bad day hit him like a tidal wave, and his first instinct was to find her, to seek refuge in her calming presence. He reached for his phone to call her, his fingers hovering over a name he hadn't dialed in weeks. He needed her to listen, to understand, to just be there. It was in that moment of desperate need that the truth, cold and sharp, pierced through his self-absorption. And then he realized. He finally, truly, devastatingly realized it. He had lost the only person who had ever loved him without asking for anything in return. Her love wasn't transactional. It wasn't about what he could give her. It was simply about him. She loved him for who he was, flaws and all, and she had given him the most precious gift of all, her unwavering, unconditional heart. And he, in his blindness, had let it slip through his fingers like sand. Months turned into a blur of regret. He found himself standing at the old bench where she used to wait for him, a pilgrimage to the site of his greatest loss. The world looked the same, but it felt entirely different. The wind felt colder, biting at his skin with a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Her absence felt heavier than he could have ever imagined, a tangible weight pressing down on his soul. The silence was no longer peaceful. It was a haunting reminder of what he had lost. And in that profound quiet, his own heart finally whispered the truth, a truth he could no longer ignore. He didn't lose her because she stopped loving him. Love like that doesn't just vanish. He lost her because she stopped waiting. She had given all the patience she had, poured all of her hope into a vessel that never seemed to fill. A heart can only wait for so long before it realizes it deserves to be met halfway. Her silence, once a language of love, had finally become permanent. A final heartbreaking testament to a love that was given freely but never received. The echo of her absence would now be the soundtrack to his days, a constant reminder of the silent love he failed to hear until it was gone forever. Thank you for watching Heart Echo. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember to always keep your heart gentle and your eyes open to the quiet love that might be right beside you.